There is a small organ sitting quietly behind your stomach right now. And for millions of people over 50, it is silently struggling every single day. Most people won't feel it until the damage is already done. You've probably heard that sugar is bad for you. Maybe you've even cut back a little. But here's what most people don't realize. It's not just about how much sugar you eat. It's about what that sugar is doing to one specific organ that controls nearly everything about how your body feels. Your energy, your digestion, your weight, and even your mood. And if that organ starts sending out warning signals, which it absolutely does, most people over 50 are misreading those signals completely. They're blaming aging, they're blaming stress, they're blaming a bad night's sleep. But the real cause might be sitting right there on your breakfast table, in your afternoon coffee, or in that healthy granola bar you've been trusting for years. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see your body in a completely new way, and you're going to feel genuinely in control. Let's be honest for a moment. If you're over 50, you've probably had at least one of these experiences recently. You wake up in the morning feeling more tired than when you went to bed. You eat a decent meal, and then an hour later, you feel strangely hungry again, or maybe a little nauseous. Your digestion just doesn't feel the way it used to. Some days your energy is fine. Other days it crashes around 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and you find yourself reaching for something sweet just to get through the rest of the day. Maybe you've had some mild bloating that you just accepted as normal now. Maybe you've noticed your weight creeping up, even though you haven't really changed what you eat. Or perhaps you've been feeling a dull, vague discomfort somewhere in your upper abdomen that you couldn't quite put your finger on. You probably said to yourself, "This is just getting older." But what if it isn't? What if your body has been talking to you in a language you simply haven't learned to read yet? That's exactly what we're going to change today. Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Livia Carter, and I'm so glad you're here. I've spent over a decade working in preventive medicine, which means my entire focus is on catching things early, before they become serious, and helping people like you make simple, informed changes that protect your health for the long run. I want you to know something before we go any further. This video is not meant to scare you, not even a little bit. In fact, it's the opposite. Because knowledge is power, and today's knowledge could genuinely be one of the most useful things you learn this year. We are going to talk about your pancreas, an organ that doesn't get nearly as much attention as the heart or the brain, but one that plays an absolutely central role in how you feel every single day, especially after the age of 50. We're going to talk about 4 specific stress symptoms that your pancreas may already be sending you. And we're going to talk about the one common food, white sugar, that may be pushing that organ harder than it can comfortably handle. Take a slow breath, get comfortable, and let's do this together. Here's what I want to walk you through today, in plain, everyday language. No confusing medical terms, no complicated charts. First, I want to explain what the pancreas actually does in your body, because most people truly don't know. And once you understand it, everything else will make perfect sense. Then I want to walk you through 4 real, recognizable symptoms that often mean your pancreas is under stress. Not scary symptoms, not emergency room symptoms, but subtle, everyday signals that your body is asking for a little more support. After that, I want to explain exactly why white sugar is so uniquely hard on this particular organ, especially for people over 50, and what you can begin doing starting today that will make a genuine difference. Everything I share is grounded in current medical understanding, and I'll explain it the way I would explain it to a close friend or a family member sitting right across from me. By the time this video ends, you're going to walk away with something really valuable. You're going to have a clear picture of what your pancreas needs to function well. You're going to be able to recognize 4 warning signs that most people miss or misunderstand. And you're going to have a practical, realistic starting point. Not a perfect diet, not an overwhelming lifestyle overhaul, but a smart, manageable shift that your body will actually thank you for. You're also going to understand exactly why white sugar is different from other foods when it comes to pancreatic stress. And that understanding alone is going to change how you look at your plate. Let's get into it. Let's start at the very beginning, because your pancreas deserves a proper introduction. Your pancreas is a soft, elongated gland, roughly the size of your hand, tucked behind your stomach. Most people forget it exists until something goes wrong. But the truth is, this organ is working for you constantly, every single hour of every single day, and it has two very important jobs. The first job is digestion. Your pancreas produces powerful enzymes. Think of them as tiny workers that get released into your small intestine whenever you eat. These enzymes break down the food you eat into smaller pieces that your body can actually absorb and use. Without them, you wouldn't be able to get real nourishment from your meals, even if you were eating beautifully. The second job is blood sugar control. This is where most people have heard of the pancreas, even if they don't fully understand it. Your pancreas produces a hormone called insulin, and insulin's job is to act like a key that unlocks your cells so that sugar from your food can enter them and be used as energy. Now here's where things get really interesting, and really important for anyone over 50. As we age, the pancreas naturally becomes a little less efficient. Its enzyme production slows slightly. Its insulin response becomes a little less sharp. This is completely normal. But when you consistently eat things that force your pancreas to work overtime, especially white sugar, you begin to wear that organ down faster than it should be worn down. Think of it like a car engine. Every engine has a lifespan. If you drive calmly and maintain it well, it serves you for many, many years. But if you're constantly revving that engine, pushing it to its limits day after day, it starts showing signs of strain much sooner than it should. Your pancreas, after 50, is asking for a calmer drive. And white sugar is the equivalent of flooring the gas pedal every single time you eat. Here's the encouraging part, and I mean this genuinely. Your pancreas is a resilient organ. It responds well to change. When you begin reducing the stress you put on it, many people notice real improvements in how they feel within just a few weeks. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And the fact that you're watching this video right now means you're already moving in the right direction. Now let's talk about the first symptom of pancreatic stress. And this one surprises a lot of people because it seems so ordinary. The first symptom is persistent fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dr. Carter, I'm tired all the time. That's just life. And I hear you. Fatigue is one of the most common things people mention after 50. But there is a specific kind of tiredness associated with a struggling pancreas, and it has a very recognizable pattern. It's the kind of fatigue that comes on after meals. You eat, and instead of feeling nourished and energized, you feel heavy, foggy, and almost sleepy. You might notice it especially after meals that are high in white sugar or refined carbohydrates. A piece of cake, a bowl of white rice, a sweet breakfast cereal, a glass of juice. Here's why this happens. When you eat something with a lot of white sugar, your blood sugar spikes quickly and dramatically. Your pancreas responds by releasing a large burst of insulin to bring that sugar back under control. That rapid spike, followed by that sharp correction, creates an energy crash, what many people call the afternoon slump, and it leaves you feeling depleted, not refueled. Over time, if this pattern repeats every single day, your pancreas begins to get what we call fatigued in its insulin response. It's releasing so much insulin so often that it starts losing precision. And when the pancreas loses precision, your energy becomes unpredictable, unreliable, and exhausting. Imagine you're trying to carry water in a bucket with a small hole in the bottom. You keep adding water, but you never feel full. That's a little bit like what your cells experience when the pancreas isn't managing blood sugar smoothly. Energy keeps getting added, but it keeps leaking away before your body can use it well. So now you know the first symptom, that post-meal fatigue that sleep never quite fixes. And I mentioned there are 4 symptoms total. We've covered 1. Here's what I want you to notice as we go through the next 3. You may recognize yourself in more than one of them. Most people do. And that's not a cause for alarm. It's actually a cause for action. Because recognizing something is always the first step to changing it. Let's keep going. The second symptom of pancreatic stress is digestive discomfort that seems to move around. This one is incredibly common and incredibly misunderstood. People call it different things: bloating, heaviness, a dull ache in the upper abdomen, a feeling like food is just sitting there and not going anywhere. Sometimes it's a mild nausea that comes and goes. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable fullness that lingers for hours after a meal. Because it doesn't feel sharp or severe, most people dismiss it. They take an antacid or they skip a meal, and they wait for it to pass. And it usually does pass, temporarily. But if this discomfort keeps coming back, and especially if it tends to appear after meals that are rich in sugar or fat, your pancreas may be trying to get your attention. Here's the connection. Remember those digestive enzymes I mentioned? The tiny workers your pancreas sends out to break down your food? When your pancreas is under stress, enzyme production can become inconsistent. Some days your body produces enough, other days it doesn't quite keep up. When enzyme output is low, food doesn't get broken down as efficiently. It sits a little longer, it ferments a little more, and that creates gas, bloating, and that uncomfortable, heavy feeling in your midsection. White sugar specifically contributes to this in a compounding way. When you eat a meal that's high in white sugar, your pancreas is being called to manage blood sugar at the same time it's being called to produce digestive enzymes. It's being asked to do two demanding jobs simultaneously. Over time, that dual pressure takes a toll. Think of it like a small restaurant kitchen during a dinner rush with only two cooks. When it's calm, both cooks do their jobs beautifully. But when the orders pile up all at once, things start slipping. The food takes longer, some dishes aren't quite right, customers wait too long. Your pancreas, when overloaded with sugar day after day, starts operating like that overwhelmed kitchen. Something has to give. I want to pause here for just a moment and ask you something. Have you ever noticed that your digestion feels better on days when you eat lighter, less sweet meals? Or that your stomach seems more unsettled after a particularly sugary day? Maybe around a holiday or a birthday celebration. If you've noticed that pattern, even once or twice, drop a comment below and let me know. I read as many of your comments as I can, and I genuinely want to know what resonates with you. Your experience matters. And it's also a wonderful signal that your body is already communicating with you. You just needed the right framework to interpret it. The third symptom is unexplained weight changes. Specifically weight that seems to accumulate around the middle, despite no major change in what you eat. This is one that really bothers people, and understandably so. You feel like you're eating the same way you always have. Maybe you're even eating a little less, but your waistline keeps expanding, and you can't figure out why. Here is the pancreatic connection, and it's a fascinating one. When your pancreas is producing excess insulin, which happens consistently in people who eat a lot of white sugar, something very specific occurs in your body's fat storage system. High insulin levels act as a signal that tells your body to store fat, and to store it specifically around the abdominal area. This isn't about willpower. This isn't about laziness. This is biology. Your body is responding to a hormonal signal that says, store now, save for later. And that signal is being triggered over and over again by repeated sugar spikes throughout the day. What makes this especially difficult is that high insulin also makes it harder for your body to access stored fat for energy. So you're caught in a frustrating loop. Fat is going in, but it's not coming out. You feel tired because your body can't tap into its own energy reserves efficiently. And because you feel tired, you may find yourself reaching for something quick and sweet to get a little boost, which starts the whole cycle again. It's like trying to drain a bathtub while the faucet is still running full blast. No matter how fast the water drains, you can never get ahead of it. The only real solution is to turn down the faucet, and in this case, that faucet is white sugar. Now, I want to be very clear here. Abdominal weight gain after 50 has multiple contributing factors: hormonal changes, decreased muscle mass, reduced activity levels. I'm not suggesting that the pancreas is the only player, but what I am saying is that pancreatic stress from excess sugar consumption is frequently an overlooked and underappreciated contributor, and it's one you actually have significant control over. And here is something genuinely hopeful about this particular symptom. When people begin reducing their white sugar intake and giving their pancreas a chance to regulate insulin more calmly, many report that abdominal bloating and that puffiness around the middle begins to improve relatively quickly, sometimes within 2 to 3 weeks. Not dramatic weight loss, but a noticeable change in how their body feels and how their clothes fit. That early feedback is powerful. It tells your body that the effort is working, and it motivates you to keep going. Now we come to the fourth symptom, and this is the one that surprises people the most because it has nothing to do with the digestive system at all. The fourth symptom is mood instability and difficulty concentrating, specifically, a kind of mental fog or irritability that seems to come and go without an obvious reason. Your brain is one of the most sugar-dependent organs in your entire body. It runs primarily on glucose, the form of sugar your cells use for fuel. But here's the critical detail. Your brain doesn't like wild swings. It doesn't perform well during a dramatic sugar spike, and it certainly doesn't perform well during the crash that follows. When your pancreas is under stress and blood sugar regulation becomes inconsistent, with highs that are too high and lows that are too low, your brain feels every single fluctuation. A blood sugar spike can produce a brief moment of energy or even mild euphoria, but the crash that follows can bring on irritability, anxiety, difficulty focusing, forgetfulness, and a feeling of emotional heaviness that people sometimes describe as a kind of gray fog settling over their mind. For people over 50 who are already concerned about cognitive health, this symptom can be particularly distressing. You forget where you put your keys. You lose your train of thought mid-sentence. You feel mentally slower than you used to, and you worry about what that means. And while there are certainly many reasons for cognitive changes as we age, the blood sugar roller coaster, driven significantly by white sugar, is a frequently overlooked and very correctable factor. Here's a beautiful analogy that might make this click. Think about a child who eats a big piece of birthday cake. For about 20 minutes, that child is bouncing off the walls, full of energy, talking rapidly, laughing loudly. And then, about 40 minutes later, that same child is cranky, clingy, and exhausted, maybe even tearful. Now, in adults, particularly in older adults, the swings are less dramatic but far more sustained. Instead of a sharp peak and a dramatic crash in one afternoon, you're experiencing a slow, grinding, day-after-day cycle of mild highs and moderate lows. The irritability is milder, but it's there. The brain fog is real, but subtle enough that you might not connect it to what you ate for breakfast. This is why understanding white sugar's effect on the pancreas matters so much, because it's not just about your waistline or your digestion. It's about how you think, how you feel emotionally, and how you show up in your life every single day. Let me ask you another question, and I really encourage you to sit with this one for a moment. On days when you've eaten very little sugar, maybe you had eggs in the morning, vegetables at lunch, a balanced dinner, how did your mind feel by evening? Was it calmer? Sharper? More even? And on days when you had something sweet with your morning coffee, a cookie at lunch, and a sugary dessert after dinner? Most people, when they actually pay attention, notice this pattern. They just haven't had anyone point it out to them before, and that's exactly why you're here. If this is resonating with you, please let me know in the comments. Tell me which of these 4 symptoms you recognize in yourself. I promise, you're not alone, and you're not imagining things. Now let's talk about white sugar specifically, because I think it deserves a direct, clear explanation. Not a scary one, just an honest one. White sugar, the granulated sugar in your sugar bowl. The sugar added to processed foods, baked goods, sodas, fruit juices, flavored yogurts, breakfast cereals, and countless packaged snacks is what nutritionists call a high glycemic food. What that means in plain language is that white sugar enters your bloodstream very rapidly. There's no fiber to slow it down, no protein to buffer it, no complex structure for your body to work through. It goes in, and it spikes your blood sugar almost immediately. Every time that spike happens, your pancreas receives an urgent signal. Release insulin now. This is an emergency. And your pancreas responds. It sends out insulin quickly and in large amounts to bring that sugar back under control. Now do that once in a while, at a celebration or as a genuine treat. Your pancreas handles it just fine. It's built for that. But do it 3, 5, 7 times a day, which is shockingly easy to do without even realizing it. And you are asking your pancreas to be in emergency mode almost constantly. This is where the word stress becomes appropriate. Chronic, repeated demand is stress. Whether it's on a muscle, a joint, a relationship, or an organ, too much demand, too often, without adequate recovery, leads to strain. After the age of 50, this matters even more because your pancreas's reserve capacity is naturally a little lower than it was at 30. It still works beautifully, but it has less margin for overload. Think of it as a battery that still charges fully, but has slightly less total capacity than it did when it was new. You want to use that battery wisely. White sugar, consumed repeatedly throughout the day, is like leaving all the lights on and all the appliances running simultaneously. All day, every day. Eventually, even a good battery tells you it can't keep up. But here is the wonderfully empowering truth. You don't have to eliminate every sweet thing in your life to give your pancreas significant relief. The goal is not perfection. The goal is reduction, and specifically, reduction of the kind of rapid-fire sugar spikes that come from white sugar in its processed forms. Natural whole foods, fresh fruit, for example, contain sugar, yes, but they also contain fiber, water, vitamins, and a structure that causes the sugar to be absorbed slowly. That's a completely different experience for your pancreas. It's a gentle, measured request rather than an emergency alarm. Small, consistent changes are what actually work, and they are absolutely within your reach. So what can you realistically begin doing, starting today or even starting tomorrow, that will make a meaningful difference for your pancreas? The single most impactful first step is to become aware of where white sugar is hiding in your daily routine. This isn't about reading every label obsessively. It's about getting familiar with the common, everyday sources that add up without you realizing it. Your morning coffee with 2 teaspoons of sugar and a flavored creamer? That's already a significant sugar load before your day has truly started. That glass of orange juice you might think of as healthy? A glass of juice contains roughly the same amount of sugar as a soft drink, without the fiber from the whole fruit that would slow it down. That low-fat yogurt that's marketed as a health food? Many of them contain more sugar per serving than a chocolate bar. Breakfast cereals, even the ones with whole grain on the label, are frequently loaded with added sugar. Granola bars, protein bars, bottled sauces and salad dressings, flavored oatmeal packets. These are the quiet, everyday sugar sources that most people have never thought to question because they've been positioned as healthy or neutral options. Once you start seeing them, you can start making simple swaps. Plain oats instead of flavored packets, and if you want sweetness, half a banana mashed in provides natural sweetness with fiber. Plain coffee or just a small amount of natural sweetener. Whole fruit instead of juice. Plain full-fat yogurt with fresh berries instead of the pre-sweetened flavored varieties. These are not drastic changes. They're quiet, sustainable shifts that your pancreas will feel within days. Here's my question for you now, and I'd love for you to answer this one in the comments. Think about your morning routine. Just your morning, from the moment you wake up until lunchtime. How many times does white sugar appear in what you eat or drink? Be honest with yourself. Don't judge, just count. Because awareness, real awareness, is where change actually begins. And I promise, whatever your number is, it's not a verdict. It's just a starting point. I also want to talk about something that often gets overlooked in conversations about sugar and the pancreas, and that's the role of meal timing and pairing. Your pancreas doesn't just respond to how much sugar you eat, it also responds to how you eat it. When you eat white sugar, or any fast carbohydrate, by itself, on an empty stomach, the spike is sharp and fast. But when you eat that same food alongside protein, healthy fat, or fiber, the spike is much gentler and much more manageable for your pancreas. This is why a piece of fruit eaten on an empty stomach as your only breakfast might cause a more significant blood sugar response than that same piece of fruit eaten after eggs or alongside some nuts. It genuinely makes a measurable difference. They simply require a little more awareness and a little more kindness toward an organ that has been working tirelessly for you for more than half a century. Your pancreas has been doing its best every single day. And with just a few mindful adjustments, you can help it do that job with far less strain. which means more energy for you, calmer digestion, more stable emotions, and a body that feels more like home. One more thing before I let you go. Everything I've shared today is meant to educate and inform. It's general health information designed to help you understand your body better and make more empowered choices. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice. If you're experiencing any of the symptoms I described, or if you have concerns about your pancreatic health specifically, please speak with your own doctor or healthcare provider. They know your individual history, your medications, and your specific circumstances in a way that a video never can. Use this information as a starting point for a great conversation with your doctor, not as a replacement for one. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I never take it lightly. I hope you walk away from this video feeling something important. Not fear, not worry, not overwhelm, but clarity. A clear sense that your body is communicating with you, that you now have the language to understand some of what it's saying, and that small, consistent steps are genuinely enough to make a real difference. Your health is not a destination you've already passed. It's something you're building every single day, with every single choice. And the fact that you're here, learning, paying attention, and caring, that matters more than you know. Take good care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.